Kim Kardashian and marriages are not a good combo, and she just keeps proving it. But guys, if you really dive into it, her marriages have been so much worse than you might think, especially because everyone always focuses on Kanye and seems to forget that she's been married twice before that. And let me tell you, it's been a disaster each time. Firstly, let's take it all the way back to the year 2000, before Kim was anyone, when she met her first husband, Damon Thomas, a big music producer in the industry who was actually 10 whole years older than her. And let me just point out that Kim was only 18 when they met. I won't even get into why that's a massive red flag. Moving on, you guys, they actually ended up eloping barely a year after they met each other, and it just kept getting worse from there. Kim revealed some shocking information about her first wedding years later, where she said that she was on ecstasy at the time, and it was the whole reason she even got married. The question is, where was Kris during all of this? If Kim was going through such a hard time, how come her mom never stepped in, especially since she was so young? Kim even admitted to being very dependent on the guys she used to be in relationships with, which is probably the only reason she got that far with Damon. According to her, if she could, she'd go back and tell herself that she is way too smart for all of that, but unfortunately, that's not really an option. Anyways, guys, their wedding wasn't the only bad thing about that entire relationship, since during the 3 years that they were together, Damon turned out to be a horrible husband. According to official court papers, Kim described him as being incredibly controlling, saying, "Damon decided what we could do and when we could do it. He was very much the king of the castle." Apparently, Damon forced Kim to quit college and that she wasn't even allowed to work, since he wanted to know where she was at all times and who she was with. I mean, she wasn't even allowed to leave the house without letting him know where she was going. And according to Kim, sometimes he wouldn't even let her go some places. The mall, for example, was a major no-go, even if it was with friends. Apparently, he didn't want other men to even have the opportunity to hit on her. He was that controlling. He wouldn't even let her go out to dinner with her friends and would basically treat her like she was a child that had no free will of her own. Even if he wasn't home, she would still have to call him up and ask him if she could leave the house. But this was just the start of Kim's nightmare, since he had also started to become extremely physically abusive and even pushed Kim into starting the plastic surgeries that she is literally known for today. According to Kim, Damon forced her to get liposuction and even gave her $3.6 thousand to get it done so that she could be perfect for him. Damon himself even admitted to having paid for several plastic surgeries, including the liposuction as well as a boob job. But according to him, it was all because she wanted it. He said she wanted to have that lifestyle. She wanted to be what she ultimately became. And guys, Damon has always claimed that Kim was looking for life as a star, so she was always trying her best to become a more perfect version of herself. But since it's a he said, she said kind of situation, it's hard to say who we can actually believe. Although I have to say, I feel like there might be more truth to what Kim is saying. But all of this eventually led to a divorce between them in 2003, where Damon actually denied pretty much every bad thing Kim had ever said about him and called her obsessed with fame. He even claimed that she was just after his money and that she actually cheated on him, which is why he filed for divorce. Thankfully, Kim did manage to get out of it in the end, even if it was with some damage. However, the relationship completely changed Kim's outlook on love, since it was such a blow to her being. According to her, she still believed in love after the divorce and still considered herself a hopeless romantic, which is certainly something we can recognize today as well, but her idea of a perfect relationship completely changed. She said, "I think I need to not live in a fairy tale like that. I think maybe I need to just snap out of it and be a little more realistic." After the whole fiasco, Kim did go on to have several relationships. Thankfully, none ending in another damaging marriage, but she did have to deal with the infamous tape, which honestly might have been a result of her first marriage. In 2007, her tape with Ray J was leaked, and as we all know, became the reason she got so much fame and attention. It is even rumored that Kris was the one to leak the tape to the press in order to get Kim on all the tabloids, something she had dreamed of for years. So when Ray J finally decided to speak up about what really happened years later, everyone wasn't too surprised to hear the truth. And guys, it sounds like it really was all planned to give Kim the life she wanted. I've sat in the shadows for over 14 years, allowing the Kardashians to use my name, abuse my name, make billions of dollars over a decade and a half talking about a topic I've never really spoken about. I've never never leaked anything. It has never been a leak. It always has been a deal and a partnership between Kris Jenner and Kim and me, and we've always been partners since the beginning of this thing. It looks like Damon wasn't entirely wrong about Kim wanting to be famous, but this incident, along with what happened in her first marriage, definitely did some damage on Kim, even if it was somewhat in her hands. I think it's safe to say Kim was basically traumatized because of her marriage especially. And I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't really seem like she learned as much as she says she did when you compare it to her next marriage, where she really wasn't that much better off. This one might be a little bit more well known by you guys, especially since it was aired on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, but also because it marked a major failure in Hollywood. Kim had a 72-day marriage with Kris Humphries in 2011 and basically became the laughing stock of celebrities because of it. Short marriages may be very common in Hollywood, but 72 days was just absurd. And a lot of people actually thought that this was done entirely for a PR stunt to bring more attention to Kim. The whole thing was on the reality show, even the proposal, which actually had to be filmed twice because Kim didn't like the way she looked in the first take. She was actually very excited to get married even before Kris proposed, since she felt it was time for her to settle down. They even discussed potential kids.
We are gonna get married one day.
Like when?
I have a little baby, so I wanna call it.
But because the two had barely been together for 6 months before getting married and hadn't even spent that much time alone together, things between them got bad pretty quickly.
And for me, I didn't spend more than I think a full week with my ex before we got married. We never lived together. So once we moved in together, I saw how our relationship was, and I started to see things that I wasn't aware of before.
And as it turns out, you guys, Kim completely regrets the wedding, since she had the wrong idea of what marriage would be like for her, even though she had gone through that first marriage, which destroyed her. Remember how I mentioned that she said she realized she needs to not live in a fairy tale? Just listen to what she says about her marriage to Kris.
And I was in love, and I wanted a life that I've always pictured my fairy tale life to be.
Since she did end up going through with the wedding, despite the fact that her mom and even producers told her she didn't have to if she was getting cold feet. But because the whole thing was to be filmed, Kim admitted that she felt pressured with going through with it so that she wouldn't be labeled a runaway bride for leaving her own wedding on camera. Her mom had apparently told her, "Go, I'm going to put you in the car. No one will find you, just leave and I'll handle it," right before the wedding, at the same time that Kim was having cold feet. She didn't want to be labeled as a joke, but honestly, having a $10 million wedding for a 72-day-old marriage is worse than if she had just run off, especially since she literally filed for divorce the same month that the wedding episode aired. And as it turns out, you guys, Kim even felt bad for ending the marriage with Kris because he really did love her, and it was she who fell out of love. "I handled it totally the wrong way. I tried to apologize. I tried calling him for months. And it was all due to the fact that Kris is religious, and having a failed marriage on his back isn't the best look, especially such a short one too. He even tried to have the marriage annulled, but that would mean saying that the marriage was a fraud, which Kim had made clear it wasn't several times. And as the cherry on top, she even admitted to having been wrong about everything and said, "If I was mature, I would have wanted the annulment too. I wish I was only married once." The whole thing turned into a huge mess, you guys, and Kim doesn't really have anyone but herself to blame for this one. But the mess she had been in before with her 2 marriages is exactly why she and Kanye worked out. He was actually always there for her as a friend through both of them, since he and Kim were friends for years before they even started dating. But they didn't really start talking until 2010, where they started to get pretty close. Guys, Kanye even texted Kim that she didn't have to marry Kris on her wedding day. Sounds like he was trying to be her knight in shining armor for that one. So when she and Kris finally broke things up, they actually started dating almost immediately. Kanye even professed his love for her in his song Cold, where he sang, "And I'll admit I fell in love with Kim around the same time she fell in love with him." The two were genuinely madly in love, and for years it looked like Kim finally got the fairy tale love that she had been dreaming of her entire life, which is exactly why it must have really hurt when Kanye started to go off the wrinkles. Apparently, it started to get tense between them when Kanye started to move around to different states and Kim was left to raise the kids alone along the way with the weird way he started to act. I think we can all remember some of Kanye's worst moments when he took to social media and posted some of the weirdest things for the whole world to see, like when he started to run for president, and we were just outsiders. So imagine how Kim felt. Besides that, there was also the whole deal with him revealing that Kim considered aborting North, and then his Twitter rant about how Kim was trying to fly to Wyoming with a doctor to lock him up. Anyways, guys, this was just one of the many incidents that Kim had to go through with Kanye after he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and everything just started adding up to be too much for her, and that's when she filed for divorce in 2021. With everything going on, Kim was obviously having a hard time, guys, and the kids and dealing with the divorce was not easy, especially since she started blaming herself for not being able to be the kind of wife that Kanye wants.
He deserves someone that can go support his every move and go follow him all over the place and move to Wyoming. I can't do that. He should have a wife that supports his every move and travels with him and does everything, and I can't. I feel like a failure, that it's like a third marriage. Yeah, I feel like a loser. But I can't even think about that. Like, I want to be happy.
That was kind of heartbreaking to watch, guys, not gonna lie. After everything she's been through, it's pretty sad that she can't get the happy ending she wanted, especially because this was the third time she was going through with this kind of thing, and now there are even children involved that she has to prioritize. This divorce also meant that she had to figure out how to co-parent with Kanye, which didn't make things any easier, especially when he was going around the internet calling Kim out every single day for being a bad wife and a bad mom, and then saying other stupid things on top of it. Kim actually opened up about how hard this was for her to deal with when it came to her kids, since she had to protect them from what he was doing.
My kids don't know anything that goes on the outside world. I will protect that to the end of the earth as long as I can.
Ever since her divorce, she's tried to make things easier for herself by getting over him and trying to date other people, like her very questionable relationship with Pete Davidson, and she's had many other dating rumors on top of that. But as it turns out, she's finally had enough with the men and is trying out the single life. Unfortunately, guys, it looks like Kanye just keeps dragging her down, especially with the way he brought up her tape in regards to the kids. Don't let Chris make you a playboy like she made Kylie and Kim do. Hollywood is a giant brothel. Pornography destroyed my family. This actually got Kim extremely mad, even though we didn't see it at the time. But guys, she was freaking out behind the scenes and even said that everything he's been doing is going to be way more damaging to their kids than her tape will ever be. Anyways, that's exactly why it looks like she's trying out a new chapter, since so much of the drama in her life has been caused by men and the relationships she's had with them. In a new episode of The Kardashians, she even said, "I am single and not ready to mingle," and that's okay. And guys, she even said that she regretted being with Pete since he had to go through quite a lot after dating her. But knowing Kim, this might not last as long as she thinks, since she seems to have a pretty hard time learning from her past, considering the fact that she keeps jumping from one bad marriage to another. What do you guys think? Is a single Kim really realistic? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to check out this other video for more juicy drama.